Miss Hamilton here, and I have come out to the Greenway today to get a little exercise and also to tell you a story. I want to tell you the story of how McDowell County came to be McDowell County. Now look at this beautiful view. You see that beautiful river going by there and the beautiful trees blooming out with those green leaves. It's a beautiful area out here, isn't it? Well, I want to tell you a story about how it became McDowell County. So back in 1768, and that's your first assignment from me, is how long ago was that? In 1768, there was a man by the name of John McDowell, and he was called Hunting John. And that's my second question for you today is, why do you think they called him Hunting John? Well, Hunting John came westward from the coastal areas, and he decided he wanted to settle here in this area. And so back then you had to apply or ask for a land grant, and if they approved it, they would give you the land. The government would say, yep, you can have this, it's yours. So back then, Hunting John, he decided he wanted this land. Guess what he had to do to apply to get this land? He had to wrestle another man. That's how they solved things back then sometimes. He had to wrestle him. Well, he won the wrestling contest. So he applied and he was granted this land. And he was granted back then 640 acres, boys and girls. 640 acres. That's a lot of land. And so he settled in this area right here where Miss Hamilton is at, right in this area, out here on the Greenway near the river. He settled here and he called this land of his Pleasant Gardens. Does that sound familiar to you, boys and girls? What do you know about Pleasant Gardens? Have you heard that word before? Okay, let's keep on our walk. So Hunting John was given this land, and he called it Pleasant Gardens because the land was so rich and so great for growing crops. And also he had those beautiful views of the mountains. He said this was Pleasant Gardens. So he acquired the land and he settled down and began to raise a family. So Hunting John had settled here and began to have a family, and he had a son, and his son's name was Joseph McDowell. And Joseph, he was a pretty interesting character, boys and girls. He was born in 1758, and he was a pretty ambitious guy, a pretty smart guy, I think, because he became a lawyer and a physician, which is a doctor. He also served in the General Assembly, and he fought in the American Revolution, boys and girls. He accomplished a lot, didn't he? So he was a pretty smart guy, pretty knowledgeable, worked hard to be able to be all those things. So that was his son, Joseph McDowell. Now if you'll look, I'm on the Greenway, and if you ever come out here and walk, if you'll notice where I'm at, there is a separate path that goes off to the right here, and there's a little sign there, and there's some picnic tables. And so I am going to take this path by the picnic tables, and I'm going to cut off for just a minute because they're mowing grass and you may not be able to hear me, but I want you to take that path one day if you get the chance. Here's another view for you. This is on that path that I took to the right, and there's not any water on this side, but there's some beautiful trees planted. And if you'll listen for a minute, you'll hear some birds singing to us. Did you hear them? They were saying good morning. And now I'm going to take this little path, and if you notice, it goes up. So I'm going up on this little hill. I can't wait to show you what's up here at the top. Okay, boys and girls, I just got up to the top, and it was a pretty high hill, and I came upon this. Now I'm going to show you around. Look how high up it is. And if you look right back there, behind those trees, that building right there, that's Lowe's. So that you can understand exactly where Miss Hamilton is. That's Lowe's. And you get to the top of this hill, and you've got this pretty stone area. And I want to tell you a little bit more about Joseph McDowell. Now remember, he was the son of Hunting John. And Joseph McDowell, he became a colonel in the Army. And like I said, he was a doctor and a lawyer. He was pretty important in our county. And in 1843, our county organized, got together the people, and they actually made it an official county. And they named that county, can you guess what? McDowell County. Yeah, they named it McDowell County. Who do you think they named it after? They named it after Joseph McDowell, who was a colonel in the Army. So it's named after Colonel Joseph McDowell. And up on the top of this hill, I want you to look at what we have here. I don't know if you know what this is or not, but this is a grave, boys and girls. This is where the bodies of Hunting John, his wife, Joseph McDowell, his wife, and their son, and then their son are buried. This is their tombstone. I don't know if you can read it very well, but it says the McDowells. Hunting John McDowell, his wife Annie Edmonston, their son Colonel Joseph McDowell, and his wife Mary Moffett, and then it continues on down to their great-grandson. So they're buried here on the top of this hill. Now, why do you suppose they buried them here? Well, remember what I told you about Hunting John. Hunting John claimed all this land that you see right now. There was nothing here but trees and flowers and the river. He claimed all of this for his own, remember? And so this hill was part of his land, Pleasant Gardens. And so when they passed away, they brought them here to the top of this hill, and this is where they buried them. Now there are some others buried up here as well. There is another grave marker for Colonel John Carson. And we haven't talked about the Carson family yet, but we will. Now he has connections, Colonel John has connections to the McDowells, okay? Because he was married to Rachel McDowell and also Mary McDowell. So he has that connection to the McDowells, so that's why he was buried here on top of this hill as well. All right, boys and girls, I'm gonna go back down this hill and then I'll come back with the rest of our story. I'm back, made it down the hill. So I want to tell you a little bit more about Joseph and John. Now Joseph and John were both colonels in the Army, and they were part of a famous group of soldiers called the Over the Mountain Men. Now these soldiers were pretty famous. They led them to the battle at King's Mountain, and they were famous for pushing back the British there. So I want you to do a little research about the Over the Mountain Men. I want you to let me know what you find out about them, okay? All right, I'm gonna keep walking and I'll be back in a few minutes. Hey boys and girls, we are at our last stop of our history lesson today. And I don't know if you recognize this house. Look real close. This is a pretty special house in McDowell County. This house is located right beside Sonic. So the next time you're out this way, make sure you notice this building, this house. This house belonged to Joseph McDowell. This was his house. He and his family built. They cut the logs themselves to build the house. They made the bricks in their kiln themselves. They did all this themselves, and this was his home, because remember, this was part of the land that his father Hunting John claimed and named Pleasant Gardens. So this was his home. It's a beautiful home. It's a landmark in our county, which means it's an important building that stands for part of our history. So the next time you're out this way, I want you to make sure you notice Joseph McDowell's home. All right, boys and girls, that's the end of our lesson today, and I hope you learned something about the history of your hometown, and that you enjoyed getting to see some of these things, these places, and I'll be back with you another day for some more history. Bye.